say? What do you say to those who say you? What do you say to those who claim you're using a 200-year-old law to circumvent due process?
An old law? Not as old as the Constitution. We still pay attention to that, don't we?
It's the one and only Digo Double G.
The recent deportation flights under the Alien Enemies Act have sparked major controversy. But was it the right move? Some claim this action bypassed due process and targeted individuals unfairly. But the truth is, these deportations were not only legal, but also necessary for national security. Let's break down what really happened. In this video, we'll analyze the interview with Tom Homan, fact-check the claims, and explain why this operation was both justified and strategic.
Could you walk us through just some of the behind the scenes on how you carried out some of the deportations of the flights from being invoked under the Alien Enemies Act? How did that play out behind the scenes? Can you get a little into the timing with the judge's order?
Look, let me say this. You know, the president, through proclamation, took his authority under Alien Enemies Act and imposed it, which he has the right to do.
First, let's discuss presidential authority and the legal basis for these actions, as explained by Tom Homan. The Alien Enemies Act grants the president authority to remove individuals deemed a threat during times of national security concerns. Tom Homan has consistently defended this approach, citing its historical precedent. This isn't a loophole. It's a law that has been in place since the early years of the nation, much like the Constitution. Tom Homan points out that enforcing existing laws should not be controversial. The proclamation invoked by the president was legally sound and aligned with existing deportation protocols, a point that Tom Homan has repeatedly emphasized.
TDA has been designated terrorist organizations. TDA is an enemy of this country. We know TDA, based on a lot of evidence, are part of the Maduro regime through the military and law enforcement. They've infiltrated them, and look, they've invaded this country to unsettle this country, through whether it's through fentanyl killing thousands of Americans or through the violence they're perpetrating in our cities. The president did the right thing. I stand by it. I thought, and we removed in one day over 200 dangerous people, including MS-13. It was the right thing to do. I see the video that President Bukele put out. It was a beautiful thing. These people are going to be held accountable.
Is every one of those guys a member of the gang? How do you know it, and why can't they sort that out with a lawyer in a hearing, which is how it should be?
Look, we abided by the court's decision. His written order was on 5 illegal aliens. They didn't want to deport them, and we abided by that. By the time the other order came, the plane was already over international waters with a plane full of terrorists and significant public safety threats. And, you know, to turn a plane around over international waters, we're going to refuel over international waters, come back and bring terrorists back to the United States. That's not what this president promised American people. What the president did was exactly the right thing.
So they're all trained in Nicaragua, every guy who's on that plane?
I'm not familiar with every single case in that plane, but that's my understanding. MS-13 members and TDA members.
Now, let's talk about the threat posed by TDA and MS-13, something Tom Homan has warned about for years. The interview highlights clear evidence linking TDA members to violent activities and cartel networks, a connection that Tom Homan and law enforcement officials have been tracking closely. These groups have infiltrated law enforcement, contributed to violent crime, and played a role in fentanyl trafficking. Tom Homan has been vocal about the consequences of ignoring these threats. The deportation focused on those identified through criminal records, law enforcement intel, and activity patterns. According to Tom Homan, the vetting process ensured that only those posing a legitimate threat were removed. Next.
And let's remember, many of those on the plane were removed through Title 8, not through the Alien Enemies Act. So, again, it was the right thing to do. That's what the people of this country mandated President Trump deal with the border crisis, deal with illegal immigration, and deal with illegal alien crime, and that's exactly what we did. We removed terrorists. That should be a celebration. We removed terrorists from this country, and I stand by what the president did. I support 100%.
How do you determine whether somebody is a gang member? What criteria do you use?
To various investigations. A lot of the ways we do it, it's law enforcement sensitive. I'm not going to share all that with you, but whether through social media, through the activities, through their criminal records here and abroad. So this was done a very. The review of this issue was at the highest level I've seen, and I think, again, I stand by everything we did this weekend, and I think the president keeping his promise to the American people. We removed terrorists from the country this weekend. I can't believe any media would question the president's ability to remove terrorists from this country.
How were these deportation flights carried out? Tom Homan detailed how over 200 individuals, including MS-13 and TDA members, were deported in a single operation. The process followed a structured review at the highest levels to ensure accuracy. Tom Homan has stated that national security decisions like these require a firm and decisive approach. By the time legal pushback occurred, the plane had already crossed international waters, making reversal impractical. Tom Homan supports the administration's firm stance on following through with enforcement measures.
What do you say to those who say what do you say to those who claim you're using a 200-year-old law to circumvent due process?
An old law? Not as old as the Constitution. We still pay attention to that, don't we?
But some would say this is...
How many more terrorists do you plan on deporting to El Salvador?
Borders off the belt with Mexico. She's still asking questions.
So, why did the media react so strongly? Tom Homan has often pointed out the bias in media narratives surrounding immigration enforcement. Critics argue this operation lacked due process and exploited an old law. But let's be real. The same critics ignore that this law is no older than the Constitution itself, and both remain relevant today. Tom Homan has consistently defended the importance of upholding immigration laws. The American public mandated a strong border policy, and this action aligns with that expectation, something Tom Homan has advocated for throughout his career. Let's set the record straight. The Alien Enemies Act provided a legal foundation for these deportations. Tom Homan has affirmed that this was a legally justified move. TDA and MS-13 members pose real threats, and intelligence backed their removal. Tom Homan has repeatedly emphasized that removing known criminals is essential to public safety. This was a decisive, strategic action to enhance national security, a policy approach that Tom Homan has long supported. Despite the media frenzy, the facts show that this was a necessary and justified move to protect the country. Tom Homan stands firmly behind this decision. What do you think? Should more actions like this take place? Drop a comment below and let's discuss. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more fact-based analysis.